Hello learners, today I am going to discuss about the leadership theories. So in this session we will be discussing few, and in another session we will be discussing few leadership theories. As already I have discussed on the leadership styles, let me discuss on different leadership theories. The first and foremost is the leadership trait theories. Especially leadership research in the 1920s and 1930s focused on isolating leader traits. That means its characteristics that would differentiate leaders from non-leaders. Some of the traits studied included physical stature, appearance, social class, emotional stability, fluency of speech, and sociability. Despite the best efforts of researchers, it proved impossible to identify a set of traits that would always differentiate a leader from a non-leader. Maybe what I say, maybe it a bit of optimistic if we think that a set of consistent and unique traits would apply universally to all effective leaders, no matter whether they were in charge of their organizations or not. See, researchers they recognized that the traits alone were not sufficient for identifying the effective leaders. Possessing the appropriate traits only made it more likely that an individual would be an effective leader. In the period 1940s to the mid 1960s, the researchers concentrated on the preferred behavioral styles that leaders demonstrated. So they all started, most of the research they started studying what effective leaders did. What effective leaders did. So let me explain the seven traits associated with the leadership. One is the drive. Leaders exhibit a high effort level, they have a relatively high desire for achievement, they are ambitious, they have lot of energy, they are tirelessly persistent in their activities, and they show initiation. Desire to lead. Leaders have a strong desire to influence and lead others. They demonstrate the willingness to take responsibility, honesty, and integrity. Leaders build trusting relationships with followers by being truthful or, or by showing high consistency between word and deed. Self confidence. Followers look to leaders for an absence of self doubt. Leaders therefore need to show self-confidence in order to convince followers of the rightness of their goals and decisions. Next one, intelligence. Leaders need to be intelligent enough to gather, synthesize, and interpret large amounts of information. And they need to be able to create visions, able to solve problems and make correct decisions. The next one, job relevant knowledge. If you observe the effective leaders, they have a high degree of knowledge about the organized area, or sometimes it may be the technical matters. Their in depth knowledge allowed leaders to make well informed decisions, and they are able to understand the implications of those decisions. Extraversion, leaders are energetic, lively people, they are sociable, assertive, and very rarely silent or withdrawn. Right? So, limitations. If you observe the limitations, no universal traits found that predict leadership in all the situations. That's what I discussed. Right? It is very difficult. That's why we can try to identify what effective leaders did, but we cannot say that having those traits we consider them as a leaders. Possessing. Sometimes we may possess, but we may not performed that. When you perform that only, then you can become a leader. We have another theory, very important, one of the theories of the leadership, behavioral theories of leadership. See, theories proposing that specific behaviors differentiate leaders from non-leaders. This is a conclusion actually from the behavioral theory. It all started, see, uh, especially University of the various organizations, they have carried different kinds of uh, research in understanding and studying the behavior of the leaders. In that, if you observe Ohio State studies, the Ohio State studies identify two important dimensions of the leader's behavior. One is initiating structure, and the second one is the consideration. Initiating structure, which means it refer to the extent to which a leader defined his or her role and the roles of group members in attaining goals. It included behaviors that involved attempts to organize work relationships, and goals. The second, which is called consideration, was defined as the extent to which a leader had work relationships characterized by mutual trust and respect for group members, ideas, and feelings. A leader who has high in consideration, helped group members with personal problems, was friendly and approachable, and treated all group members as equals. He or she showed concern for his or her followers' comfort, well-being, satisfaction. So the Ohio State study research found that a leader who has high in both initiating structure and consideration, like a high leader, a high leader. But there is another study, University of Michigan studies. See, if you observe here, University of Michigan studies. Before that, University of Iowa. University of Iowa also studied, and they explored three leadership styles to find which was the most effective. The three are the autocratic style, democratic style, and the laissez-faire style. They compared these three styles. Finally, the researchers' results seem to indicate that the democratic style contributed to both good quantity and quality of work. See, University of Iowa studies compared three important leadership styles, and their research concluded that democratic style, democratic leadership style, because democratic style of leadership was most effective, although later studies showed mixed results, like uh, other studies concentrated on like autocratic places, other different kinds of leadership styles. So moving to University of Michigan, leadership studies conducted here at the University of Michigan is all about the uh, same thing like what it has been done at the Ohio State, right? What I say, they also came up with the two dimensions of leadership behavior. One is employee oriented and production oriented. Leaders who were employee oriented were described as emphasizing interpersonal relationships. The production oriented leaders, in contrast, tended to emphasize the task aspects of the job. Unlike the other studies, the Michigan researchers concluded that leaders who were employee oriented were able to get high group productivity and high group member satisfaction. If you observe this one, which is called the managerial grid, the behavioral dimensions from these early leadership studies provided the basis for the development of a two-dimensional grid for appraising the leadership styles. So this managerial grid used the behavioral dimensions. One is concern for people, another one is a concern for production. The grid has 81 potential categories into which a leader's behavioral style might fall. But in this particular, only five styles were identified. Only five styles were named. 1, 1 improvised management or low concern for production, low concern for peace, people. Task management 9, 1 high concern for production, low concern for people. Middle of the road management 5, 5 or medium concern for production, medium concern for people. Country club management 1, 9 or low concern for production, high concern for people. And team management 9, 9 or high concern for production, high concern for people. Of these five styles, the researchers concluded that Managers performed best when using 9,9 style. But here there is what we say, even this grid also, even through this grid also, we don't have an answer to the question. Yeah? What made a manager an effective leader? We are unable to find. Only what we can observe is different kind of leadership style. Which style? Say based on these two dimensions, which style we can identify. But even this manager did has also not given an answer like to become an effective leader. Okay. So in the next session we will be discussing on other theories of leadership like contingency, other contemporary theories are there. So those things we will be discussing. Thank you.